All right, everyone. Welcome back to now round 5 of the Swiss portion of the Zagreb Regional. This time featuring on the left side Jura Kukets on Marshall D. Teach, and on the right side George Karapiperis from Greece on G-Zoro. A very interesting matchup and one we don't see that much in Europe, mainly because neither hero appears to be very popular in the current meta for some reason. G-Zoro won the North American Nationals in, I believe, Dallas last weekend, so I expect to see a little bit more of him, maybe leaning towards the East Blue build with the 2 Kostami Searcher and funny 2Ks such as Rika and Hachan. And Teach also won an event last weekend. It was by Giovanni Salvatore Oliva to play Teach, and we already see a really bad start for Jura. There's no stage, he just passes on 1, and obviously he's not going to use the leader ability this early. But George has the Nami, that extra searcher for Tashigi to guarantee the consistency of the deck, and he can choose between Kuina and Koshiro. On the second curve, obviously Kuina is going to yield much more reward than Koshiro would. We don't really see much of his hand, but Jura is now activating his first searcher in the era that he drew.
I was muted.
Oh, welcome back. I was like, oh, he's gonna show up eventually. Went to get the Red Bull. But yeah, he finds Doc Q.
I got here on time and I was really good. But yeah, I'm back. Actually, as surprised that this isn't a very common matchup, but it makes sense that both these leaders aren't as popular in the meta. But this was a pretty normal matchup in Japan OP12. Basically, how this matchup kind of tends to go from what I've seen is Zoro doesn't play too many characters, basically just playing as much as he needs to rest the opponent's board. Not really is looking to make board, but is more just looking to really put pressure on Teach to break through with the leader attacks over and over again.
Yeah, and we already see that manifest in oh, that was an accidental card slip. We already see that manifest in Zoro's like 4 on turn. We know he has the Kuina, and he could use it to rest the Dokyu and hit the Dokyu and then the Teach leader. But at the moment, if he doesn't do that, then Teach just has 1 less card in hand. And if Zoro doesn't care to develop a board and to stick bodies, then he doesn't care about the Dokyu. The Dokyu is now just a card less in Teach's hand. One thing Teach has over all the other decks in the meta against Zoro, though, is he can search the Black Vortex. Sadly, he doesn't have the stage to do so, but he still has the Era Searcher, the Lafitte, to dig for it later if he finds those cards.
Yeah. This matchup without the Black Vortex feels heavily Zoro favored, but if he does manage to find that Black Vortex or 2, a lot of decks, at least in the East, I'm not sure about the West, did generally run about 1 to 2 copies of that card, sometimes even 3, can easily flip this matchup. Okay,
now we see a really nice and efficient turn from Jura. He hits the Hiyori to deny the repeated searches, but he also plays the 5-cost Kuzan, and now, by denying one, plays the Tashigi that Zoro added. Cannot rest the Kuzan and hit into it, because that's the only real weakness of this Kuzan. You cannot remove it from the board with card effects. The only way to deal with him is to rest him and then hit him, which Blackbeard's leader ability very conveniently denies for pretty much every deck in the meta. I think the only way Zoro has to rest it, like, these days is if he runs the... I forget his name, but the 4-cost that if you have 3 don't attach somewhere on attack rests a 6-cost. If he had that on 4, then he could have went for that play. But then Jura likely would have fetched Augur and killed the Dokyu. Did Jura again flip the life when he took it? I need to check this. He needs to pick up his cards way more carefully if that happened again.
Yeah. Yeah, it is one of those things that it's technically giving the opponent information, but it is something you do need to be careful of because you aren't supposed to be showing that card.
Yeah. I mean, Jura is probably feeling a little bit relieved right now because despite 3 searchers, to be fair, only 2 of them were the green type, they Zoro didn't show him any of the worrisome event that that deals with the... That just lets him swing over and over again, which is the main thing you want to deny as... or not see as Teach, because that's how they end games against you, even if you have the tank of Teaches. Was there a need for
Yeah,
the?
for sure.
Oh yeah, he's stronger in dump augur, makes sense to deal with the Tashigi,
Yep.
and now this is where a little bit of board dominance from Teach starts to get established. Especially if we can field another like augur or perhaps 5-cost Kuzan, or even 6-cost Kuzan would maybe be the best, because then he can block, revive the 5-cost Kuzan. That's like the really brutal play that Teach can go for these days.
Yeah, that 6-cost Kuzang, especially after you use your leader effect, just will not be moving, so it is guaranteed to revive something. Even after it revives something, because of Zora's leader effect, you can't actually hit into the character that's been revived. You have to hit into a character that's either 7-cost or higher or life. So a lot of the times that the target that comes out from the on-KO effect from Kuzang will stick to the board. So if he can manage to, he's been curving very well, I must say, despite not having stage.
Yeah.
But if he can combo this into, for example, another 5-cost Kuzan, get the effect off once again to potentially clear another target that the Zoro can pull out, then that's just a lot of resources, a lot of extra activations of his leader effect. That'll be very crucial for the following turns. How do you feel about this hit into Dokyu with Piranha? It feels like it never really feels great to do because you're giving Teach a card, but you're also denying them the ability to easily KO some of your board.
I think if you're looking to develop board, it is good. If you're not, but if you're not hoping to stick pieces to the board, then it's not good, because in that case you're just giving them cards to hand to defend with later, and the more cards they have, the more effective their black vortexes are, and so on. For example, if Teach blocks here, then you're probably just using the 3-cost event to hit again into probably the revived Kuzan, and then you're not developing anything, so hitting the Dokyu didn't matter at all for this turn. You just kind of gave them the free card, and they get to play the 7-cost, not Jack, but Teach afterwards. So I'm not the biggest fan of starting out with that. Like, they definitely could have waited, I feel. Yeah, and here's the 3-cost event.
I agree.
And, okay, what's the problem with this? Well, the problem is that Teach starts feeling really good about his position. This is one 3-cost event that is spent on board and not on life. And yeah, you deal with the Kuzan.
And it's absorbing a 10k, yeah.
And that's like a lot of precious time for Teach to work with. Especially if you find some more Kuzans.
Yeah. The nice thing for Green Zoro, though, is because Teach took the first 2 life despite them being 6k hits, these larger hits that are guaranteed to come out later on are going to be harder to deal with for Teach. Maybe he would have wanted to be a bit more... Ooh, sees a Black Vortex, but decides not to pick it up.
Yeah, adds the Lafitte from the Best Selection Volume 4. A very, very nice art.
I mean, if you see a shiny card, you have to pick it up for sure.
But yeah, he gave up the Black Vortex for it, so I guess he's digging for more Kuzans, because he's very persistently grabbing the Searchers, and he has a Black Vortex in hand. I think in this matchup, as Teach, there's no such thing as too much Black Vortex, honestly. Okay, he finds the Kuzan and insta-grabs it.
Instantly picks it. Yeah.
Oh, he accidentally bottomed the search,
Oh,
no, he put the eras on the... But yeah, we also see some support for Teach player in the chat. That's Yura. He's a local, and he has a small number of tops. He's not very accomplished, but he's good. Like, he practices a lot. He just kind of didn't get any really good chances in big tournaments. So I hope he does well this time with the home turf advantage. Wait, did he not discard for leader? Oh, it's still his turn. Okay, yeah. He's thinking of what
I think... Yeah.
Yeah. If you play in Zagreb or have visited Zagreb or even hung out with Croatians some international event, you probably saw or at least heard Yura, because he's quite loud, quite energetic, and what's the word for it? Emotive, maybe, like expressive.
It's fun. I need to go to Europe at some point. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. I want to go back to Japan, but feel free. I hope you also come to Europe at some point, because we have quite a different culture when it comes to card games, especially at the local level, I think. Because in Japan, there's so many local game stores that you can play at. But very few tournaments of this kind, where it's like higher level tournaments where basically everybody travels. Because you only have the championships, right? And a couple unofficial tournaments to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, and even the championships feel kind of local in Japan, because they're all so close. But Zoro still persistent, trying to make board as best as he can. The first Sashi that he played, just as a 5/7 vanilla, was cleared. is the second one going to stick? It
Yeah, well-
does get harder and harder to stick as the game goes on.
Yeah, especially because we know Yura has Tempest Kicks, and we saw one earlier in hand, I think. So that Tashigi with a combination of Tempest Kick, Augur, and OQ gets cleared. Or not even just that, he just needs the 7 cost, right? And that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, if he has 7 costs to teach, then he's fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure what awkward... sorry, the comment by awkward. I'm not sure what it relates to, so... Maybe it was something I said, but... I can't remember. They really shouldn't, but hey, Stranger Things, right? I'm puzzled. Did I say something about the players? Or about the teach strategy? I assume it was just a comment on strategy, but I sadly can't remember. Sorry. And yeah, Zoro is countering, making sure to stay healthy, because as we noted already in detail, he is losing the board advantage, but Teach will now have to start relying on those black vortices to stay alive and not go down in life. Ideally, he wants to time one of those on a turn where he expects Zoro to use the 3-cost event. But yeah, I understand he was digging for the 5-cost Kuzan, so he knows one of the vortices on the bottom of the deck. Right, we know he plays San Juan as well, the blocker, and if he has any of those, he can get the extra bodies on board. But the ideal scenario is if he does have a 7-cost to just eat up the Tashigi. But it looks like he's looking at the Tempest Kick.
Yeah, doesn't seem like he has the 7-cost teach. Is going to go for the Tempest Kick, cycles hand. Oh, sees another 5-cost Kuzan though. So if he can manage to clear the Tashigi and also play out another 5-cost Kuzan, that might be pretty nice. But he may want to hold on to that Dong for the Vortex though.
Yeah, this...
I think you probably are forced to.
Yeah, he has to drop like a 4-cost, like San Juan blocker or something would be ideal, just because then you can combine the block with the Black Vortex effect to just completely shut down Zoro's turn. And then if you can get in a position where you consistently have 2 blockers on board, it becomes so much harder for Zoro to break through.
Yeah. What's the card again?
Oh, shit.
What's the 1-cost 2k blocker that Teach runs?
Karibo.
Again? Karibu. Yeah. Karibu is out, right? In OP12?
Yeah, it was OP11
I don't
card.
think I've seen it yet.
No, we've seen one dumped off of the era at the very first surge, but that was the only one we have encountered in this game.
Okay, yeah. Karibu is actually very relevant in this matchup too.
Yep.
Because of what you're saying about the double blocker. Because not only does it help protect your board, but just being able to absorb 2 of the attacks from Zoro is very relevant. And being able to do that for 1 Dong while also being a 2k just kind of feels like Teach is cheating.
Yep. Though, to be fair, Zoro does seem to have a decently good hand for the matchup, because one of the cards that ends up clogging the most as Zoro in the matchup is the 8-cost Mihawk, because without the on-plays, you don't get the 4 down back, so he's just a very expensive 8k body to drop. And if you drop 1 big body per turn, then Teach is kind of really happy with that. He can even play 10-cost Teach in those situations. But Zoro hasn't drawn any, he just has counters and more of the Huinas, which let him handle the smaller blockers that Zoro will want to put out. But yeah, this is the consequence of not dealing with the Perona earlier. Now she's swinging 7, and Teach like gets to use any such leverage to just to take cards away from Yura's hand, and that just forces him to try and finish the game faster, which usually isn't something Teach is very good at without the 10-cost chains.
Yeah, an interesting thing that could be done here. Actually, yeah, this is probably just the better play. He doesn't have enough Dong to potentially threaten the 3-cost event, so trying to break through here, try to make him use as much counter as possible, is probably the optimal play.
I like this from... Oh, he really needs to be careful. Okay, I checked it later. He didn't do it on the second life. Yeah, second life he picked up normally, but he is really careless when he picks these up. But I agree with this decision because he's not threatening the 3-cost event, and as I said, you want to maximize the value of that Black Vortex to actually hit the 3-cost event, and
Whoa.
I like the idea of getting the second Black Vortex, just because Zoro might
Yeah.
have 2 turns of aggression left in him, and if you only have enough to handle one, you're gonna be cooked.
Yeah, I don't believe that he's looped his deck. So does that mean that he maybe runs 3 Black Vortex?
Yeah, he does. Because I think Giovanni in Athens ran 3 Black Vortex, and Yura is just playing a list similar to that.
It's very interesting because, I mean, especially if the Green Zoro matchup is a little bit less prevalent, as some people were maybe expecting going into today, then you don't see people running as many of the tech cards, and especially not running them at 3. So I was expecting that if you were to be playing Teach, a rather unconventional deck, into this meta where you're not necessarily expecting to see as much Green Zoro as maybe you would have in the East, then maybe you wouldn't tech in all of those Black Vortexes, but he's very happy that he did so this time.
Yeah, I mean,
Being
you
able to
still
pick
have
up the
to...
second one.
You still have to respect the deck, and there's more of the... Like, it's not just Green Zoro, it's really useful against Green Purple Luffy, where you can deny the rush and the double... and the restant ability... Or sorry, not the restant ability, just the rush on the 6-cost Luffy. And there's a few other examples in the meta, like...
Oh, that's
there's a lot of
interesting. You
Carol
take away
Sleep.
the rush. Yeah.
Yeah. And... Yeah, anything that double swings. I think even the Black Yellow... Not Black Yellow, Blue Yellow Nami's odd, and you can just minus 4k him. Like...
Yeah.
He just gets to reap that extra value for practically no additional cost. But we know Yura has the Kuzan, and now he can grab the San Juan he has in trash. And with that, he's really, really safe. Because he can just San Juan and Black Vortex, and he's good to go. Like, or maybe just Black Vortex counter to cover himself against the 3-cost event, depending on the cards in hand the Zoro has. I'm really curious to see how Yura will play this. Oh, so he has a Karibo. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, this San Juan Wolf, although it does gain cost, the 4-cost Kalina does rest based on base cost. So, although that card is right now seeming to be about 9 cost on the board, it doesn't actually matter for Zoro. But that Karibo, as we were mentioning before, is going to be a huge wall right now. Going to be very tricky for Zoro to actually finish the game on this turn.
I believe Zoro even has 2 Kuinas in hand. I think I gleaned them earlier, unless he countered with one of them. So he might actually present a massive turn now. When he got the second event.
Up another.
Okay.
He picks up the 3-cost event.
Yeah, if he can put Yura in a position where he has to use both Black Vortices to counter just on this turn, if he has double Kuina. Oh, he only has 1 left. Okay, in that case, it's not as bad. Because with just... Yeah, with just 1, he cannot force both blockers without using an event. And if he uses an event, then Black Vortex can do a lot of heavy lifting next turn as well. So this looks... This looks like Yura should have it unless he gets thrown off by the line of play that Zoro takes and maybe underestimates the possible reach. I want to see how this will go.
If Teach takes a little bit too much time in this game, Zoro can probably find an angle. But trying not to let that be the case.
Yeah, and Zoro is... I'm not sure how much he's going to go into Karibo, but it's good that he's going into Karibo first. Okay, if he was planning to go this much, then it's probably better to go on San Juan. Because then...
Do you not just go into leader?
Yeah, but...
And try to force them to block with San Juan? I mean, I guess if you have the counter, then you just use the counter instead.
Yeah, but they're not gonna block if they have Black Vortex.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, you're right. I forget about the Black Vortex's effect past the plus 4k.
All that Yura must not do is block and then Black Vortex when he's at 0 life, because that's how you lose the game in this spot. But
yeah,
11k would force him to give up 3 cards from his hand, which I'm guessing he doesn't have by how much he's thinking about this line in particular, so he's just gonna double Black Vortex. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, double Black Vortex going down to, seems like 2 cards in hand.
Yep.
And so likely not going to see any more.
Yeah, I think he's just gonna push for the game now.
Yep.
Unless he thinks he can survive, depending on what he finds off of the stage.
I think that there's a bit too much risk. You don't know how many of the Dead Men's game that Zoro may have. You don't know if they have Kurina, the 3-cost event. There's lots of invisible damage that can potentially come out of Zoro, especially if you don't have that Black Vortex ready.
Problem is though, you cannot afford to play around Deadman's game, because if they have it, they just kill you next turn by playing the event itself. Because you don't have the counters for it anyway, so you cannot respect Deadman's game in this position.
Yeah. But still, with absolute knowledge, we do know that Green Zoro's hand is a bit starved for counter. And this does happen a lot when you're fighting against Green Zoro. A lot of the times, even if they have a couple cards in their hand, they generally don't have the counter to defend the attacks in the later game.
Yeah.
So,
I'm surprised he started with 5 and then followed up by 7. But
he's making a very clear stake case, 5, 7, 9. But they are going through,
and he's got it.
11 goes through in the end.
All right, we can maybe dissect the best lethal line later, but this was very well played by Yura. Without having stage in the start, he still had quite a strong opener and pretty much took over the board as soon as it was possible in the matchup. When you get to that 5-down turn and establish the Kuzan, that's where he really started to push ahead. He had the stronger ready as well to immediately take care of the Tashigi. And yeah, Zoro just couldn't push through.